Sun Devils basketball fans had hope for this year, but a season straight out of a nightmare might be the worst Bobby Hurley has had in Tempe.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Shout out to my everydayers who are here every day, and thanks to all of you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Apologize for the radio silence. Things have been crazy lately, but, neither here nor there, because things are crazier for ASU basketball right now. BJ Freeman dismissed from the team. Jayden Quaintance injured once again. Amir Ali is balling out, though. We got to talk about all three of those on today's episode. BJ Freeman dismissed from the team. That was not what I had on my bingo card for this year's basketball team. It feels like this came out of nowhere. But the question is, did it come out of nowhere? Because the more we look at this situation, right, it feels like there may have been breadcrumbs along the way that kind of pointed to a situation where this marriage between BJ Freeman and ASU may not have been what we hoped it was. And this is speculation. Like, I can't speak on behalf of Bobby Hurley. I can't speak on behalf of BJ Freeman. What I can speak on is my opinion on everything that we have seen on the court. But BJ Freeman dismissed from the team. We found out a couple of hours before the game against Kansas State this past weekend in Manhattan. And I believe AZ Central was the first to report it. And it kind of came out of nowhere. But Bobby Hurley let us know, hey, BJ is not with the team anymore. We're moving on without him. In press conferences since then, the way that Hurley worded it was he was dismissed for conduct detrimental to the team. We have seen numerous times this year that BJ Freeman has been emotional. And I think that is the best way to describe it, is emotional. Like, he's not a bad kid. It's not like he's going out and setting fires or anything like that. He's just an emotional player, and these things happen. But there's a point in time where you have to be able to nip things in the butt, and you need to realize that there are times that are worth being really emotional, upset about, and there's times where you just need to keep it to yourself. And we saw that BJ Freeman was ejected twice this year. Most infamously was his headbutt of Caleb Love against U of A when ASU lost on their home court and then decided to leave the court before the game ended. First of all, there was a differential on the shot clock and the game clock, and ASU tried to leave before they had to inbound it for the point however many seconds, and everybody was off the court. Everyone was in the locker room, and Bobby Hurley leaves and everything, and it's a whole fiasco. But BJ Freeman had taken what was already an explosive powder keg, because it's just an emotionally charged game with U of A and ASU. It's a historic rivalry. These guys hate each other, and I love it. But there are lines that need to be drawn when it comes to rivalries, because at the end of the day, it's sports. And sports aren't everything. It's everything to me. It's everything to fans. But there are lines that shouldn't be crossed. One of them is shouting F the Mormons. Proud of ASU for not doing that. That's for sure. Can't say that about another fan base, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, headbutting somebody else, I don't like that. Even if it's a U of A player and one that I don't care for, like Caleb Love. I am not a Caleb Love guy. That still should not have happened. That's just inexcusable. It can't happen. And I've said before, like, I love games with physicality, and I love rivalries where guys are in each other's faces, pushing, shoving, talking that smack. I love it. I live for that. It's one of the things that makes ASU and U of A's rivalry so great. It's just good old-fashioned hate. There is no love lost between these two programs. You see on the football field, there's fights all the time. And I love that. I love a good fight. I don't like a dirty fight. I don't like sucker punches. I don't like headbutts. I don't like guys getting clipped from behind. There's times and a place for altercations, but there's never a time and a place for anything dirty like that. That was dirty. Just is what it is. Let's get back to talking about BJ Freeman, and I will get off my high horse there. I will step down from my pedestal because I've talked about it before. That was already a very emotionally charged incident. Again, I think that's the best way to describe it. I don't know BJ Freeman, but I am not willing to say he is a bad person. Not at all. What I am willing to say is he's a very emotional young man, and he gets into the middle of a game and he's dialed in, and I love that. I love it. You just got to pick and choose your battles. And he has chosen wrong twice this year because he also got ejected against Colorado. Bobby Hurley also said at one of the losses, I don't think it was Houston. I can't remember. One of the losses, Bobby had come into a press conference and said, yeah, some of the players are refusing to talk to me. Speculating. I wonder if BJ Freeman was one of those guys. Clearly, this was not a good marriage. That's one of the things I led off with here is the marriage between BJ Freeman and Bobby Hurley and Arizona State Sun Devils basketball was not the best one. I don't know why. Things happen, Not everything is hunky-dory, roses and rainbows and everything like that. There is stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and I don't know what went on behind the scenes, but it certainly feels like there was a lot more than what we saw on the court, and we already saw a lot of emotions on the court. I'm curious if BJ Freeman was one of those players who did not want to talk to Bobby Hurley. And we look at 2 ejections and Bobby removing BJ from the program for conduct detrimental to the team. That's exactly how he described it. This is intense. This is a very intense situation. But we're going to see what happens. Now, I do have a handful of questions. First of all, is Bobby losing the team, or was it losing a player or two? I don't know. Historically, we know Bobby Hurley as a player's coach, and that's one of the reasons these kids flock to ASU. When we recruit, we've never had a problem recruiting. We've had multiple 5 stars in different classes. We land high 4 stars all the time. Like Bobby Hurley recruits like it's nobody's business. If he was somebody that players didn't like, they would not come here. 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, guys in the transfer portal who were in their 20s. They wouldn't come to ASU. So there was a point in time, and I asked this on the podcast, is Bobby Hurley losing the team? Is he losing everyone in that locker room? Is the message stale? Is it time to move on? I guess we're going to find out if it was really just one proponent of all the, I keep saying emotion, but that's what it is. Because ASU won the game against K-State, and they looked very balanced when they were out there. If we see moving forward for the remainder of the year that ASU is playing balanced basketball and they start winning games, that's when I have the question of, is this really a Bobby Hurley problem? Because we've had ups and downs with Hurley. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to defend the lack of success that Bobby Hurley has had, because to say a lack of success is a dramatic understatement here. Bobby has not done nearly enough to warrant being at this program for 10 years. I don't know if he's going to be here for 11 years. We'll cross that bridge this offseason when things start to materialize and things start to happen. But if ASU is able to finish out the season strong, right, it's got to promote, I could say provoke, some questions here. So as far as what's next, you just need to continue to regroup, refocus the team, and get dialed in for the last handful of games. And it's a tough slate. You got BYU, Texas Tech, and Arizona. All are ranked right now. This is not going to be an easy end to the schedule, to a season that I opened up the show was a year out of a nightmare, putting it politely. Let's start getting minutes for these younger guys. Amir Ali, we're going to talk about him at the end of the show. My goodness, he is on a tear right now. We got to figure out what's going on with Josan Sanin, and we got to figure out what's going on with Jayden Quaintance, who is injured again, left the K-State game on crutches, and we don't know what's going to happen to him moving forward. But I am going to talk about him coming up next on this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It's time to talk about our good friends over at FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on all of it than with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off, or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, or anything else, you can stay in the action. If you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. It's the best. That's the thing that I love about FanDuel, is using their app allows me to stay in touch with everything. There is a live betting feature on it, and I can turn that stuff on. So in my lock screen, it will let me know how my bet is looking. It keeps everything excited. I am more invested this way. And it doesn't matter if I'm backing my team. It doesn't matter if I'm looking for a late game rally or if I'm looking for a player to hit a clutch three, because I feel like I'm never missing my chance. And of course, the app is easy to use. When you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new customers for FanDuel can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thanks, as always, for tuning in to make Locked On Sun Devils your first listen of the day. And a shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Jayden Quaintance is injured again. What do we make of that? I know there's a lot of people that are having these thoughts. What are the thoughts, Richie? Is Jayden Quaintance injury prone? He's been banged up throughout the year, and we have no idea what's going to happen the remainder of the year. Bobby Hurley in a press conference on Tuesday said there's not really an update right now, kind of undisclosed. We will get to it when we get to it. There's no immediate update right now. When this episode comes out on Wednesday morning, hopefully we will have some more clarity. Obviously, before the game tips off at night, we will know whether or not he's playing. I don't know what the extent of the injury was. What I do know is that he left the K-State game on crutches, and that's typically not a good thing. I don't know if you know anything about injuries, but leaving a game on crutches typically is not what you were hoping to see. And it's a bummer, too, because Quaintance was having a heck of a game against Kansas State, and you didn't want to see it end the way it did. 8 of 11 from the field. By the way, 2 of 4 from 3. I am not someone that encourages Jayden Quaintance to shoot threes. In fact, every time he is lining up beyond the arc, I say out loud, don't even think about it. I just don't want to see it. He hits his first 2, and it's like, okay, maybe he can. His next 2 he missed, is what it is. But outside of that, I mean, he's 8 of 9 if you take away the 2 what are you doing 3-point attempts. He was having a very good game. He was also getting up there. He had 7 boards. He had a block. He had 2 steals. He was doing all these little things. It was one of the best games that he has put together this season. It was just phenomenal. Everything that he was contributing on the court, he was just very, very consistent with everything. He was going to have another double-double. Through 26 minutes, that's what he did. And then unfortunately, he goes down with an injury. Now, keep in mind, this is not the first time that he has been banged up this year. Quaintance has missed 3 games, and he also only played 9 minutes against Oklahoma State. And that was a game where Bobby Hurley ends up coming out post-game press conference and says, yeah, we weren't really sure. We wanted to give him a go. And I made the decision that, hey, Jayden, I love you. You don't look 100%. We're going to take you off the court because we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can for the best interest of you moving forward. Definitely the right decision. Is he injury prone? I know that's what a lot of people are asking. I am saying no. Part of it is because the label of injury prone, I don't know how much I love it. I think that's a label that should be very, very sparingly used. Some guys, they just have bad luck, man. And it's nothing they can do. Some guys just, their bodies don't hold up as well as others. I can't explain it. I'm not an athlete. I couldn't tell you why some people have more durability perceivably than other guys. I know I wouldn't have lasted. I've got arthritis in my knees. I got back problems. I am turning 30 in May. Like, I was never destined to be an athlete. And even if I got to that point, my body's broken. Like, I was not going to last. Some people just have those problems. And then you can maybe talk about injury prone, but I still just, it's hard to get behind that label. So looking at Jayden Quaintance, is he injury prone? No, he's not injury prone. And if you even want to try and give him that label, we're going to have to wait a while, man. He's 17 years old. There's no way you can hand him that label right now. It's an inappropriate time to do so because we don't have a extensive timeline of how he looks, right? We've seen him play great basketball this year. We've seen him play physical basketball this year. That should not be a question. There shouldn't be a question about his toughness either. Quaintance has, according to Bobby Hurley in press game conferences and stuff like that, and according to some of his teammates, like, hey, coach, I can play. And it's like, Jayden, you're in a boot. You can't play. And he's like, I can play. I'll just play underneath the glass. Like, I love the passion from him. I have no questions that he wants to be on the court. I have no questions that if he can be out there in any extent, 1 minute or 40 minutes, he wants to be on that court. So if he's missing games right now, that is not a Jayden Quaintance thing. That is a, hey, this injury is a lot bigger than we thought, and we want to make sure we're taking care of him, or it's a coaching decision. You just can't predict these things. It's very difficult to prevent these things. And Quaintance has been banged up several times during the year. But I also don't look at Jayden Quaintance and go, man, that's a problem. Like, he can't stay on the floor. We didn't talk about this with Joson Sannon when he was banged up to start the season. Like, he missed, almost a month, it felt like. It was a lot of games. He missed a lot of games. And since he came back from injury, he hasn't been the same. You know what? It happens. But we weren't handing out the injury-prone label to Joson Sannon like we are with Jayden Quaintance. And Quaintance has missed far fewer games. It's just important to remember that injuries are a part of the game. And sometimes they're just unavoidable. How do we work this moving forward? Well, it starts with this. You can't be scared and refuse to play Jayden Quaintance. If you're Bobby Hurley, if you're Jayden Quaintance, or you're anybody else that is making those decisions, if he wants to play and you believe that he can play, then play him. It should be as simple as that. Now, of course, you need to be smart. Maybe that is putting him on limited minutes. Maybe that's sitting him out of a game, even though he's 75% there. He could probably play, but you know what? No, we're going to be cautious. We're going to sit him for this game and make sure he's 100% for the next game. Be smart about it, but if it's not something that will definitively end his season, I would like to see him make a return. And there's not a lot of games left. So if it's something that would knock him out for a month, yeah, let's shut him down. We're not going to be playing basketball in a month. If it's something that can be done in like 2 or 3 games, like a week or 2 week recovery, like, yeah, I'd like to see him out there before the season ends. I think it's a confidence thing, and I think that you just need to have that willingness to put your guys out there. But if it's a situation where it's 50-50, like, hey, we could put him back out there, there's a risk he gets injured, then yeah, just don't put him out there. Like, be smart about this. He's not fine china that your mom saves to bring out when the fancy guests are over and everything. Like, it's not a special occasion. It's not, I have to be super delicate with this player. That's not where we're at. We just need to remember that you have to be careful. You have to be cautious while also understanding I can't limit this dude. It's going to hurt his mindset. It's going to hurt his confidence if you are refusing to play him, even if he's at 90 to 95% health. He needs to be out there. He needs to be taken care of. There's a healthy line. He is not injury prone. If you want to have that conversation, get back to me in 5 or 6 years, if not longer. Because right now we can't assign that label to somebody who's been banged up. Like he hasn't missed a month. He's missed 3 games, like 3.5 games. And I assume he's missing K-State. Who knows after that? It's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. You know who's on fire recently? Another freshman, Amir Ali. We got to spotlight him. That's coming up next. It's the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. One last time, thanks as always for making us your first listen of the day. Who am I kidding? Not the last time, not the first time, but a special shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Are you guys still watching Sun Devils basketball? If you are, first of all, you're a sicko and I love you to pieces. The other thing, you are noticing number 5 absolutely dominating recently. Amir Ali, the other freshman from this year's class. All the focus has been on Jayden Quaintance and Joson Sanin. For a reason. Quaintance is the highest recruit ASU has ever landed and was a day 1 starter. Sanin, 3rd highest recruit ever, flipped from U of A and was averaging 22 to 25 minutes a game before his injury as the 2nd leading scorer. And he was shooting 50% plus from 3-point when he was 100% healthy. It's very difficult to look at anybody else at that point in time, especially with the way that Quaintance has played and the way that Sanin just draws our attention. Because when he's on, man, he's hard to stop. Like, he's just a great shooter, but the consistency hasn't been there over the last month and a half. But then you have Amir Ali, and it's like, he's an afterthought. Let's call it as it is. For the majority of this season, Amir Ali has been an afterthought for fans. Like, you think of the freshman class, and you're thinking of Sanin, and you're thinking of Quaintance. Not a lot of people are thinking of Amir Ali. At the time, sure, you kind of understand. He's not getting on the court a whole lot. He's not really producing when he does get on the court. Like, he's averaging a little under 10 minutes a game for the majority of the year. Well, he is now at a point where you can't keep him off the court. He is playing at a ridiculously high level recently. And especially now that BJ Freeman is gone, and if Jayden Quaintance is to miss any time, let alone the remainder of the season, you are going to see Amir Ali on the court a lot. Just from these last 5 games, his average on the season has jumped up to 15.5 minutes per game. He was well under 10 for majority of the season. The last 5 games, he has exploded. Here's the averages for you. 28.2 minutes per game. If that was his, his season, 28.2 minutes a game, that would place him 6th on the team behind your starting 5. But let's take BJ Freeman out of it, just an example, and he's top 5. And yeah, his minutes are probably going to be higher. He's probably a lot closer to 30 minutes. There's only 2 players that are above 30 minutes right now. I don't see a reason why stretching this out for over the course of a season, Ali wouldn't be one of those guys. But even now, 28.2 minutes. 4 of those games were with BJ Freeman on the court. Or 3 of them? I can't remember which game he was suspended for. Amir's getting on the court right now, and you can't keep him off. He's averaging 10.6 points per game. He's shooting 50% from the field. He's shooting 45.5% from deep. He is shooting 91.7% from the line. He is 11 of 12 on the line. That is so far and away the best free throw shooting that we have had all season. 1.2 assists point per game, 1.2 steals per game. He is just absolutely balling out right now. I would tell you, if you're looking for a positive spin for ASU news right now for the basketball team, the story is Amir Ali. And it's such a bummer that so much else is going on, because we need to talk a lot more about the things that Ali is doing on the court right now. But instead, everything is focused on BJ Freeman and the injury to Jayden Quaintance. All eyes are still on Joson Sannon. People are still looking at Adam Miller and the way that his final season's going out. Oh, Sean Phillips is averaging more minutes now, and he's getting more starts. First of all, absolutely love what we're seeing from Sean Phillips recently. And he's going to be starting a lot of games for the remainder of the year, if not every game for the remainder of the year. He got the start against K-State in place of BJ Freeman. Quaintance is out for who knows how long. And even if he doesn't miss a game, even if he plays tonight against K-State, Phillips is still going to start, or he's going to see a lot of minutes on the court. That's not going to change for the remainder of the year. And he's balling out right now, and we need to be talking about Sean Phillips more too. But this segment is for Amir Ali, because Ali is doing some crazy things for this program right now. I want to revisit a conversation I have had previously on this show, more than once. And this also has been a hot topic when it comes to Bobby Hurley. One of the things that I have wondered is who will be on this team next year. Since COVID, so whenever the season was canceled, I want to say that was the 2019-2020. Might have been the next year. I don't remember. This is a new roster every year. And that's not fun for fans to have to sit there and be unable to have a favorite player because they're never there. Like Frankie Collins was here for 2 years. He was becoming the fan favorite, and then he transferred this offseason. It's like, well, crap. How are we supposed to get attached to guys? It's just very difficult for that to happen. And I'm looking at this roster, and there's a lot of seniors. BJ Freeman was a senior. Adam Miller, Bashir Jihad, and Alston Mason are seniors. They're going to be gone as well. Your starting 5 from this year are going to be gone. Jayden Quaintance has to return for a year. Is he going to stay? I don't know. Sannon had already said he was one and done. I think he needs to come back for another year just because the numbers have not been nearly what he wanted them to be, and I know they can be better. But is he going to stay at ASU? Ali was somebody I speculated. I don't have news on this. This is speculation when I had previously talked about Ali. I want to make that clear real quick. I had wondered if he would want to return to ASU. He wasn't getting on the court. He wasn't getting opportunities. And this was with injuries. This was with rotation. We just didn't see a lot of Amir Ali. But the last 5 games, you can't keep him off the court. I mean, he jumped his average up to 15.5 minutes per game. I won't be surprised if for the remainder of the year, he gets to a point where 15.5 minutes per game is on the low end. He's so good right now. And if there is an exodus, right, because 5 players are gone, including BJ Freeman, you could see Sannon go pro. You could see Jayden Quaintance return, or he could look to play Euro, or he could just transfer to another program. That's a possibility. Amir Ali, my biggest speculation was he's not getting on the court now. Why would he want to come back next year? Well, he is getting on the court now. And for the umpteenth time, you can't keep him off. You can't keep him off because he's doing good. You can't keep him off because of the injuries, whatever. Point is, he's out there right now, and he is one of your best players. I'd say it's probably Alston Mason, and then Amir Ali is right behind him. Those two are playing winning basketball right now. As long as Ali is out there, ASU has some chances to win, hopefully more than one more game before the end of the year. We'll see what happens, man. This has been, like I said, just a season straight out of a nightmare. But at least Amir Ali is balling out right now. And that is the one thing that I really hope people are focusing on with all the negativity that is surrounding this team, with the losses piling up in what has been one of the worst seasons in the Bobby Hurley era, with the injuries that we've dealt with, from Jayden Quaintance to Josan Sannon to some of the other. Austin Nunez only played 4 games this year. All of that. It's hard to not focus on it. But if there's one thing that we should be clinging to desperately, if nothing else, it should be what Amir Ali is doing right now. And with the way that he is performing and the direction that this team is going, he is one of my biggest priorities to make sure returns for next year. I do whatever I can to make sure Amir Ali doesn't go anywhere. He went from somebody that couldn't get on the court for whatever reason to somebody that is arguably the best player you have on this team. That's irreplaceable. So big shout out to Amir Ali, who's absolutely balling right now. This still remains a nightmare of a season, though. Despite how great Ali has been playing. BJ Freeman being dismissed, that's crazy. Jayden Quaintance is injured again. It has been a season straight out of a nightmare. Straight out of hell, if you would like to go that far. And I would. What are you guys thinking? What is the biggest storyline that you have for ASU right now? Is it the negative, or are you looking at a guy like Amir Ali to be the storyline of this team right now? And what are you expecting from Ali for the remainder of the year? Let me know in the comments. You can hit me up on Twitter at RichieBrads36 or the podcast at LO_SunDevils. Wherever you're getting your shows, hit like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications. You'll get an update whenever we post new content. Appreciate you guys, as always, for tuning in to make us your first listen of the day. Shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. We will be back again later today. Me and Jake Hatch from Locked On Cougars, Locked On BYU Cougars specifically, had to sit down and have a conversation, not just about tonight's game, but how come ASU and BYU aren't becoming an every year rivalry on the football court? Football court, goodness, listen to me. On the football field. And should BYU fans have a larger level of respect for ASU after what U of A just did to them? We talk about all of that. So make sure you turn into that episode as your second listen of the day. I will see you all later. And until next time, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.